Welcome to the video. Welcome to the, brief explanation of developing speaking skills. Well, it could be late for some who have already covered the task, but I'm still on time for others who are working on it. And it could be beneficial for both. Remember that we stopped with a couple of skills, um, reading skills, if you can remember, and listening skills, which are receptive skills. Today we're going over a different kind of a skill. Remember, they are all related. They are all interweaving to a certain extent. But this is a productive skills which requires a output, rather than a reception. Of course, the cycle of input and output is working at all times when learning a language. But I would like to focus on this productive skill only, and then you will link and integrate every single skill for your planning, for your potential implementations in the future. Well, when we think of the speaking skill, we take into consideration fluency and accuracy. When we talk about language fluency, we talk about phonemes, basically, pronunciation of those phonemes with the appropriate stress, with the suitable intonation patterns, okay? And we also think of different situations for producing language, for speaking, for oral production. Those situations could be genders or specific contexts in which people need to speak in connected speech. Those situations could cover a number of events in real life, in the academic environment, and also for personal purposes. Now, in order to work with language fluency and auto production, we usually come up with a couple of strategies for overcoming tough situations, difficulties, constraints regarding communication. Those are usually referred to as conversational strategies. One example of those conversational strategies are discourse makers, well, like that, kind of, etc. Fillers that help us take advantage of time in order to come up with what we wanted to. Just a couple of strategies for us to keep up with the rhythm of a conversation. Harmer discriminates functional exchanges for speaking from language fluency. Regarding this, a conversational repair strategy is transactional, which is the way we use this spoken discourse in order to achieve a goal, to go to the market to buy a device, to travel around, to carry out these everyday activities that have to do with transactions and with economy or politics or education. And we also have interpersonal that has to do with communication among people, unplanned conversations, spontaneous conversations that, lead to speaking out your mind. And of course, we have different situations, planned speech and unplanned speech. Whenever you're going to give a lecture, you prepare your speech, you take care of what you're going to say before. And spontaneous conversations where you need to improvise, understand, improvise with meaning in, in a very natural fashion. Now, these conversational strategies have to do with rules and structure. Well, some of those strategies that students usually use and we speakers do are paraphrasing, using fixed expressions, using openings, interrupting, changing the topic, closing the conversation. And you have a couple of examples here in the slide. How are you? Okay, this is, the way you greet people, the way you approach them. And you have a couple of strategies for interruptions, such as "excuse me," or "may I have a word on that," or changing the topic. Yeah, what about, etc. Closing. It's been so nice to talk to you. So this is a strategy that is linking different skills, speaking, and also the language system. If you can remember the different dimensions of the grammar, such as form and modules, um, meaning and use the context, right? But also, according to Harmer, some survival and repair strategies that we just explored and have to do with compensation, a compensating lack of knowledge, or when you don't have enough vocabulary for providing with meaning. So to a certain extent, you compensate that by means of paraphrasing or a repetition or formulating questions. And well, we also include into these conversational strategies real talk in it, adjacency pairs that are usually a connected speech. Whenever you ask a question such as "How are you?" you expect an answer such as "I'm fine," unless you're talking to an Indian person. But as you communicate and you get involved in the culture, your expectations are adapted for suitability. Let's think of another example. When you offer food to someone, you usually ask questions such as, "Would you like some more bread? Would you like some water?" Uh, and what you're expecting the person to say yes, you would find an answer if you offer food or beverages by using this quantifier some. Some other strategies could be piling up questions, lexical chunks, and we can see another language system here, vocabulary and pronunciation, of course. Well, according to Thornbury, there are 3 different areas of knowledge regarding speaking. One is the patterns, the modules, pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary, using the right words in the correct order with the proper pronunciation. This is about mechanics. Additionally, according to him, we have functions, transactional and interactional strategies, and situations, knowing, with certainty the message is fundamental for communication, for transaction, for information exchange, for going to the bank, for taking a taxi, for going to school. And when precise understanding is not required for interaction, for relationship building, where a negotiation takes place. And finally, we have pragmatics, which is the use and the social and cultural dimensions of the use of the language, turn taking, rate of speech, length of pauses between speakers, roles of participants. Basically, understanding how to take into consideration who is speaking to whom, the circumstances around, and the reasons why and what for, communication. Pretty similar to what we have previously discussed, right? Now we have different kinds of students, and this has to do with what we check in Unit 1, the learning variables, the personality types, the different kinds of learners regarding impulsive styles, reflective styles, and we need to take it into account for preparing our lessons and for knowing ourselves as well, in order to provide with feedback, for monitoring, for evaluating, for designing the task, etc. Taking into account the learning variables, we could think of different strategies for working with those varieties of learners: preparation of tasks, rehearsing, repetition, and working whether small groups or big groups according to our context. This is a sequence for implementing speaking tasks: planning, carrying out activities, analyzing, and repeating so that we can find routines and patterns. Now, what are the teacher's roles when working with the speaking skill? Well, usually we could find the teacher as prompter, as participant, as feedback provider, as an instructor, and we need to take into consideration that the teacher's roles will depend a lot on the personality of the group and the personality of your potential students. Some people like to be corrected at the moment of speaking, but some others might rather continue speaking, so we need to set a line for giving feedback, so that we could keep it balanced and try to be subtle, regarding correction. You don't want students to feel overwhelmed, embarrassed, anxious, pointed out, but you want them to feel free to continue speaking and confident. You want them to feel secure. If you show them that you got the preparation, the knowledge for correction, maybe at the end of the class, in the middle of an activity, when being alone outside the classroom, and there are different techniques, you will see, but before going over those techniques, I would like you to check the following module for an instruction unit and the different elements that it consists of, regarding stages. A warm-up, where you prepare the students for the main topic, for in this case, the speaking task. An introduction, in order to activate students' schemata. The task, we you expect the students to pay attention to your instructions for preparing the main task, for giving detailed instructions. observation stage, where you as a teacher need to keep track of the activity going on in class, monitoring or online, asking questions all the time about the clarity of the task, and while participating actively in order to provide with corrections or feedback as well as praising. You know. Feedback, well, for students to know how they are performing, at any time during the class, but we need to take into consideration the affective domain, you know, and to try to be sensitive and sensible when providing with feedback. We'll check a couple of lines regarding feedback. And finally, a follow-up activity on the topic to reinforce the activities in the lesson are part of this module provided by Harmer. This is a summary of the module: introduction, the task, the observation, feedback, and follow-up. I came up with a couple of suggestions for speaking activities that you could implement or use for your proposals: acting from a script, communication games, discussion, prepared talks, questionnaires, simulation and role play, and autonomous activities such as finding out conversation partners online, recording your voice on a mobile phone, drilling, speaking chains, with different classmates or friends or people. And well, I'm sure you're really creative, and you're going to come up with different speaking activities that could focus on the development of the skill and on critical thinking enhancement. Now, what I was talking about, feedback during oral work. Well, we could focus on accuracy, or we could focus on fluency when giving feedback. And when shedding light on accuracy, we need to show incorrectness by reformulating, by repeating, by echoing, by letting others answer, a statement, question, expression, or giving a couple of clues for the student to solve it eventually by their own. Now, feedback during oral work regarding fluency. Well, gentle correction, recording mistakes after the speaking activity, outside the classroom, face-to-face, one by one, or if it is a global error to be highlighted, maybe at the end of the lesson, common errors in the group, in the activity, so that you can provide with feedback and they can continue speaking, which is very important. Take it into account for the following task, which is going to be focused on speaking, of course. You can read the instructions in detail if you go to E-platform, E-. This is going to be one of your last activities. So if you have any question after reading the instructions carefully, well, please text me or send me an email, and I will go back to you as soon as possible. Well, thank you for reading. Thank you for going over the speaking skill and taking care of Harmer's chapter 20 on speaking. I think you can find a lot of examples regarding lesson sequences there, on chapter 20, and then you could start doing your task. Thank you very much. Take much care, and I send you a big hug.